2026, and I declare the meeting opened at 6:53 p.m. The City of Busselton acknowledges the Wardandi and Bibbulmun people as the traditional custodians of this region, and we pay our respects to the elders past and present. We have already mentioned today about the official recording. This is being videoed and live streamed, so could I please ask you not to record, photograph or take video, and that you remain respectful in the gallery. Thank you. We will not be having a prayer this evening due to the lateness of the meeting. Father Jess decided he might go home and have some dinner. So in attendance, we have a full complement of councillors, with the exception of the Mayor, Phil Cronin, who is on a leave of absence. I have no announcements. We do have a disclosure of interest from Director Maxine Palmer for item 12.2, which is currently in the en bloc, but as a result of the conflict of interest, it's a financial interest, it will be removed from the en bloc and considered separately. Director Palmer will make her declaration prior to the consideration of that item. Sorry, and Dr. Gary Hunt, our CEO, has also declared a conflict of interest, financial, and he will also make a declaration prior to the consideration of the confidential item. We again revisit the question time for the public, and I believe if they are still in attendance, we do have some questions. Would anyone like to come forward and ask a question? Mr. Sims, would you like to come forward, please?
Good evening, Acting Mayor, Councillors and CEO and everyone else. Keith Sims, Busselton. Well, that was an interesting 2 3/4 hours, wasn't it? All right, so this is to do with the council meeting agenda, salt water. The balance of $2.364, $2,364,976 is proposed to be funded by a new 10-year loan of 1.19, I won't read the exact figure, and 1.17 million, carrying over the surplus from the 25-26 financial year result. Can you please confirm that the 1.1726665 carryover of surplus funds was not previously allocated to saltwater but other projects?
Thank you, Mr. Sims, for the question. The 2025-26 surplus is detailed in the agenda item for adoption in the budget, which was just adopted. It reflects higher than expected revenues of approximately $500,000 and cost savings against the budget realised throughout a range of areas, $916,000 in operating and $1.04 million in capital. $962,000 is being carried forward for the carryover of the Dunsborough Lake Sporting Pavilion project, leaving the balance of funding for the for the completion of the saltwater.
So my question is, that's a surplus that's now being allocated to saltwater but wasn't before?
As we just adopted the budget, it will be allocated as specified in the budget.
Yeah, but it's another dollar figure being spent on the saltwater. It's an extra figure.
It is the figure that is included in the budget that was just adopted.
Which is an extra figure. Question 2, do the current interim costings to complete the saltwater final expenditure figure include the payment or future payments to Broad Construction?
There are no further payments to be made to Broad Construction to complete the project.
Okay, that's the second part of it, but the first part says, does it include any payment to Broad?
Mr. CEO, would you like to?
I'm not asking a figure, I just want to know, does the figures include payment to Broad or future payments to Broad, possibly?
I'll defer to the CEO.
Mr. Sims, you're talking about the total figure for the project?
as an extra. So in the current interim costings to complete the saltwater final expenditure figure, does that include any payment to Broad?
Beyond what we've already made?
Or just what's being spent on saltwater? Does it include, to make it simple, does it include any payment to Broad?
I just answered that. There are no further payments to be made to Broad Construction. No further payments.
No. But, okay, there's no further payments, I understand. Do the figures that we have for expenditure on saltwater include any payment to Broad for them moving out of contract?
The only payments to Broad are incorporated in the saltwater project figures.
Okay, so they are already included. Okay, thank you. I have a third question which I didn't give you on notice, and this came up from, I got totally confused tonight. So I referred in my previous questions at the special council meeting a cost of 73 million, which was made up of 71.9 interim cost that the CEO gave us, plus the 1.19 or whatever it is that was on the agenda. When I listened to the debate and figures coming, I got even more confused over how much money has been spent on the saltwater. So I'm very happy to take it on notice, but can you confirm what the current saltwater expenditure is, which is in addition to the 71.9?
Thank you, Mr Sims. We will take that question on notice and get back to you. Jane Bennett, would you like to come forward and ask a question?
Thank you. This is just from a member of Barra who had to leave earlier because they couldn't stay. So with reference to 13.1 on the agenda, which is RFT 26-003 Wardandi Track Award, we would like to request whether the landholders local to the track can be updated on actions and outcomes from recent face-to-face meetings, considering Section 1A will be awarded soon. So we would like to understand specifically and not withholding the following: fencing requirements and decisions made on locations, type and who will install and fund this, possible drainage issues and driveway access and gates, tree removals, environmental impact, maintenance of the new zone and fire management, traffic management and safety considering heavy vehicles and agricultural equipment in use, waste management involving litter and toilets, sufficient signage and security measures to limit public entering rural properties, and livestock safety. And then question 2 is with reference to 13.3 of the agenda, which is VAS yelling up.
Ms Bennett, I'll just address that one first, if you like, because they are separate issues.
Yep, sure.
Thank you for the question. It is quite complex in nature, so the staff will take that on notice and get back to you and address all those items that you've raised.
Thank you.
Please ask the next question.
Okay. So question 2 was with reference to 13.3 of the agenda, VAS yelling up siding roadworks. It is clear strong community feedback on this project has made it a contentious issue. That is, the community are against the removal of trees and damage to environment with little reasoning to do so. We would like to highlight this is also the Wardandi track location and request clarity if this project is being promoted or pushed to assist and fund the track concurrently. We understand tourism is important to the region, but we need a balance between all factors, and we would appreciate further review of this project. Perhaps the track can be offset and miss the tree line in this area.
So the question in what you've just said is the project, the Wardandi track, being promoted and pushed to assist and fund the track? Is that the question?
Yeah, so the project, the VAS yelling up siding roadworks, is that project being pushed ahead because it is involving the track location and funding from the track all together. Are they basically connected?
Look, I don't believe that they are related. The VAS Yallingup, and Director Darby may correct me if I'm wrong, the VAS Yallingup siding roadworks are to do with road safety and are not related to the Wardandi track. However, I appreciate that my answer may not be satisfactory, so maybe we'll take that on notice. And I also note that this item, the VAS Yallingup road safety item, is on the agenda this evening, so there may be some further debate that may provide you with some further clarity on that issue.
Yeah, and just on that issue, just some of the statistics used to show the crash and accident concerns around that area don't seem to reflect the exact area necessarily where the trees are being potentially looked at being removed. So there is huge community concern, which we've been informed about.
Thank you, Ms Bennett. We are aware. We have seen the submissions on the issue, so elected members are aware.
Okay.
Thank you for your questions.
Can I just mention also Amber Dixon put some questions in on notice. She had to leave because she's got young children. So are we able, either can they be read out, or would you like Darren can read them out?
I can read them out if you like, and then we will take her questions on notice and respond.
Thank you.
To her. So the questions raised by Amber are to do with the questions arise from repeated concerns raised by members of our community regarding the use of glyphosate in public areas, particularly around schools, playgrounds, shared pathways and other places frequented by children and families. They relate not only to contractor compliance but also to the city's broader approach to public health transparency and environmental stewardship. Question 1, contractor compliance. Over the past year, multiple residents have reported contractors spraying glyphosate around schools, playgrounds, bus stops and shared pathways during times when children and families were present, including incidents that appear to have breached the city's own contract restrictions. What auditing has the city undertaken to verify contractor compliance? How many breaches have been identified and what enforcement action has been taken in response? Question 2, given the growing community concern about the potential health and environmental impacts of glyphosate, particularly in areas frequented by children, why does the city continue to rely on glyphosate as its primary weed control method rather than transitioning towards safer alternatives and reducing its use wherever reasonably practicable? Further, if the city considers its current approach appropriate, why are residents not routinely notified before spraying occurs or provided with warning signage after spraying so families can make informed decisions about using those areas? Question 3, will the city commit to undertaking an independent review of its herbicide management policy, including contractor compliance, public notification, signage and the consideration of alternative weed control methods in high public use areas such as parks, playgrounds, schools and shared pathways? Question 4, the city's strategic community plan places importance on sustainability, environmental stewardship and community wellbeing. How does the continued widespread use of glyphosate in parks, playgrounds and other public open spaces align with those objectives, and what work has been undertaken to investigate safer weed management alternatives? Those questions will be responded to. Thank you. Are there any other members of the community? Please come forward. Mr. Evell.
Yeah, Don Evell from Geograph. Sitting through that budget tonight, it's very, very apparent that the saltwater project has caused great financial difficulty or drain on this council and the ratepayers, I might add, which we had no say in. Now, where a project starts off at $38 million and is now $73 million, if this was private enterprise, people would be either sacked or sanctioned or held accountable. My question is there anybody in this council, employees, held responsible or taken into account for this gross misuse of our money?
That's your question, Mr Evil?
That's a question I just asked, yes.
Okay. I think that we will consider a response to that, but no, there will not be any council officers held personally responsible for any sort of anything to do with the saltwater project. It's your personal opinion, obviously, that you've
No, it's not a personal opinion at all.
Well, it is your personal opinion that you've just offered to the council, and I'm sure that elected members will take that
Also,
on board.
question 2, prior to tonight, and I can't remember the date, but this council approved a $5 million raid on other reserves to finalise and complete saltwater. And now tonight, you're saying that you have to get another $1.2 million or $1.8 million.
What's the question, Mr Evil?
Well, how far do we go? Do we keep on borrowing money or do we keep on raiding accounts? Because you've said before, told that in council, that the $5 million that you raided before
So the
was the
reserves,
final.
the reserves are municipal funds that are able to be used for
I'm not
projects
saying
as long
that,
as
I'm
they comply.
saying
Sorry,
that
thank you,
you-
Mr Evil. Do you have another
excuse-
question?
No, I'm asking this question because you told
I've just
in council,
responded.
well, the council was informed that that $5 million was the final to complete saltwater, and now we're borrowing more money.
So your question is?
My question is, why are we doing this? Why are we borrowing more money?
Why are we doing what?
Why are we borrowing more money when you've already said
To complete
that
the saltwater project.
But
That
that
is
was-
why we're borrowing more money. Thank you, Mr Evil. I've answered the question. Do you have another question?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please ask your other
Right.
question.
Previous budget, there was 3% allocated to sport and recreation.
The
And that was a
previous
big-
budget, there was 2% allocated to sport and recreation.
Okay, 2%. My apologies. I would draw that to make it 2%. But that was specifically designed for sport and rec, which is paramount to this community.
And it is still
And-
being used for sport. It's not being
No, it
used for
isn't.
any
You're
other
just
purpose.
taking $1.2 million out of that into
No,
saltwater.
that was a suggestion. My alternate recommendation suggested that we take from an additional 1%, and it was not successful. So it is not being used to fund the 6.2% rate increase. There
I'm
is
not
no
saying
money
fund
coming
the-
out of sport and
I'm saying, why are we
recreation.
taking that money out from a reserve to put it back into saltwater?
It's not
the
going to,
sport-
there's none coming out of the sport and recreation reserve going to saltwater. Thank you, Mr Evil, for your questions. Are there any other members of the community who wish to come forward and ask a question? No? Okay. We will then move along with tonight's agenda. I will move down to item 8.1, that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 17th of June 2026 be confirmed as a true and correct record. Do I have a mover? Move Councillor Love, seconded Councillor Dykstra. Is there any opposition? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour? That is carried 8-0. I have had no applications for leave of absence. Item 10, we will be taking out item 12.1 to be considered separately. It was 12.2 and you've already taken it out. Thank you. So we'll now go to adoption by exception resolution of items 12.1, 12.2, 12.3, 13.1, 13.2, 13.4, 14.1, 15.1, 15.2, 15.3 and 16.1. Do I have a mover for the en bloc? Councillor Mueller, seconded Councillor Dykstra. Is there any opposition? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour? That is carried 8-0. Thank you. We will now go to item 12.2, and I believe Director Palmer has a conflict of interest to disclose.
I declare a financial interest in item 12.2 as I currently own an unhosted short-term rental and my partner operates a holiday home management business.
Thank you, Director Palmer. That's a financial interest. Will you be leaving? Well, you're not voting. Office is not required to leave. Okay. Sorry, Councillor McNish, you have...
Yes, Madam. I probably feel appropriate to declare a financial interest because I run a hosted short-term rental accommodation, which could be seen as benefiting from any restrictions or otherwise placed on unhosted tourist product.
Therefore, you wish to leave as it's financial? Okay. Thank you, Councillor McNish. The staff will prepare some paperwork for you to sign in that regard. Okay. Do I have a mover for item 12.2? Move Councillor Love, seconded Councillor Mueller. Is there any opposition? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour? That is carried 7-0. Councillor McNish, you may return. That item was carried 7-0. We now move on to item 13.3. Oh. Okay. We are now moving on to item 15.4, which is appointment of deputy to presiding member of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. Do I have a mover for that motion? Move Councillor Adams, seconded Councillor Mueller. Is there any opposition? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried 8-0. Item 15.5, certification of compliance with adopted standards for CEO recruitment. Do I have a mover? Move Councillor Ryan, seconded Councillor Dykstra. Is there any opposition? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried 8-0. Okay, we now move to item 13.3, of which Councillor McNish has foreshadowed an alternate recommendation. Councillor McNish, would you like to put your alternate recommendation, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would, as written, but if you'd allow me to add a two-line point number 5 that I think is rather valuable that I just thought of.
You want this drafted up now, a point 5?
I would like it because I think it's important, and I'll read it quickly and then slowly. The city's insurer be requested to provide... not in short, the city's insurer, LGIS, but anyway, the city's insurer be requested to provide comment as to the potential response of the city's current policy should there be a claim made or a tree-related accident along the Vass Yallingup Road. Happy to take any input from officers to sharpen that up if need be.
Okay, do we have a seconder for Councillor McNish's alternate recommendation? Councillor Love? Councillor McNish, would you like to speak to your alternative?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, before I forget, I would like to make note of a good letter, very good letter, written by a lady, and I've forgotten her name now, I've just accidentally shut it down, but she should be mentioned if someone, anyway, expressing concerns, and rightfully so, erudite, well done, all properly in order, and applauded for that letter on behalf of a number of residents along Vass Yallingup Road. The trees are wonderful. Every time I come to the council, I was going to say the highlight of my trip to the council was driving along that road, but of course I enjoy it when I'm here. I don't think anyone really wants to see the loss of this vegetation. If we could find a way to keep it without liability, of course we would. Of course we would. But I'm very mindful of not passing liability that can be reasonably be expected in the face of existing standards, engineering advice. There's a paper trail, there's a document that says, in view of the traffic numbers that have increased substantially, then there is increased risk and passes the safety threshold to require clearing of these trees. So, what do we do about that? Well, we try and reduce the numbers, the volume. Speed is one thing, sure, but that's not the issue. We're dealing with a safety issue related to the extraordinary increase in traffic numbers along that road. Wonderful, beautiful road, it's going to be a victim of its own success. So, we need to divert traffic. That means getting the main roads down here and pressing them again on the Vasta Dunsborough link to take some of the traffic off our east-west distributor roads that are adorned with wonderful 200-year-old trees. So take this thing to another level. It's not just Vassy-Allingar, then what Wildwood, then what Abbey's Farm. Then we're going to lose, some of the reason the beautiful country road hooded trees that keep the sun out, off your gravel on the windscreen to keep the sun away. And it's just, that's what people come down here, they actually get out of their car and stand there and take photos and send them back to Japan of what this actually looks like. There's whole generations of people in the major cities around who don't even understand how good that feels to be hooded by majestic trees. And some people take for granted. But, I don't, and I want to save these trees, but I don't want to hand on a liability. So I want to ask the city's insurer if our policy is covered if we go ahead and say, we don't want these trees. The council says, we don't want these trees cleared. Would we be covered by our insurance? That's a very important question to ask, and that's the point I just thought of talking to Councillor Muir on the way up the stairs here. And also, of course, want to get the new Southwest Director of Main Roads. We got the old one down. He said, "Oh, boys, sorry, but I'd love to help you, but too young to vote, kind of thing. I'm off up north. I'm retiring." So we need to follow this up and press the issue. We also need to press the issue to find out where the alignment comes in and hits the roads, our major roads. For instance, this design had was coming into Elmore Road. Now, if you're going to plug the Vasta Dunsborough link into the Elmore Road, consider that will be an absolute failure when Lot 6 and Dunsborough East Structure Plan gets even a quarter filled. The whole thing will fail. So we just need a better solution. We need these guys in Main Roads, Department of Transport, working on what will work in the future. This is pretty simple stuff, I think. We get them down and we ask them these questions. It's all self-explanatory. This was submitted within the time frame because it is a pulled item, and I hope you'll be agreeing with me that we try and mitigate the risk of clearing the trees by getting main roads down and dealing with fast unsplit, but also seek advice from our insurer before we then make a decision if the appeal is lost and the clearing is an option. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McNish. Councillor Love, did you wish to speak?
I tossed and turned over this one, especially after seeing Councillor McNish's and Councillor Ryan's alternatives for these. As I am quite an environmental advocate myself, but I do believe that, as Councillor McNish alluded to, safety should take precedence over trees along the side of the road. I actually commend Councillor McNish for adding the point 4 in, because that was a similar thought I had when this came up 3 years ago, I believe, on how the new Vasta Dunsborough Link Road will intersect with that, and if we can future-proof the remaining trees in preparation for those works in I think the estimated time frame's like anywhere from 10 to 20 years, but I would hate to see even more trees go. And I'm not opposed to item 5 either. And so I commend all councillors to vote in favour of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Love. Speaker against?
Point of clarification through the chair.
Councillor Adams?
If we adopt this, everything gets put on hold until we get this sorted out, doesn't it, if this is adopted?
It is subject to the appeals process. If the appeal is upheld, the works will not go ahead. If the appeal is not upheld, then the works will go ahead.
Okay, so but at the moment we will come back to this at a later date.
Councillor McNish's alternative is the same as the staff recommendations. He's just added in points 4 and 5.
Well, I might speak against because I'm confused.
Would you like to rise to speak against?
Sorry, I am confused now.
There
I don't
is an
want to-
appeals process currently underway.
Okay,
If
so
the appeals process is successful, the trees will not be removed and the works will not be done. If the appeals process is not successful, and this is carried, this motion is carried, then the works will occur. So it all depends on the appeals process and/or whether either of these alternates is
so
endorsed.
if we are at an appeals process for the trees, really what we do here is going to make no difference? Is that
The community have lodged an appeal against the works.
Well, I don't want the trees gone. That's where I'm at. And I think that's what Andrew's motion. But I'm a bit.
So Councillor McNish's motion is the same as the staff recommendation. If the appeal is not successful, the trees will be removed. If this is endorsed, if you don't want them removed, that would speak more to Councillor Ryan's alternative.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Do you wish to speak against?
No. I'll just leave.
Are there any other speakers against? Councillor Mueller?
Yeah. Because we didn't have the agenda briefing this evening, can I ask a question of clarification, please? If this goes to the appeals and the appeals uphold the appeal...
Councillor Mueller, can you stand?
Sorry. If the appeals...
It is currently in an appeals process.
Yep, I understand that. So if that is upheld, meaning the trees do not get removed, if there's a legal liability, who is that then assumed by? Is that assumed by the appeals convener? Because if we assume a legal thing by not removing them, then someone else saying that they're not removed, surely there's a legal implication. Is anyone able to shed any light on that?
That may be unclear at this point.
I understand.
There is a risk for the council.
Reputationally or otherwise.
Reputation, and you can't tell what someone might do if they hit a tree. Mm-hmm. So the answer is we don't know, and in fact, if you look at what number 4, and I can't see 5 at the moment, what Councillor McNish is suggesting is we try and get some clarification from both the insurance company and Main Roads. It's an unknown position, quite frankly.
All right, thank you.
Are you speaking for or
I'll continue
against?
to speak against it, please.
Speak against.
All right, so to me this is a decision that goes a little bit beyond engineering, drawings, traffic data and permit condition. And at its heart, I feel this is a values-based decision. The question before us is not simply whether removing trees may improve road safety, it's how we balance that against the environmental values, the unique character that make our district such a special place to live. Every one of us wants safer roads, there's no dispute on that. But we also know there is no such thing as absolute safety. Every day as council, we are required to balance competing interests. In this case, it's the perceived improvement in road safety against the permanent loss of mature native trees that can simply not be replaced. The officer's report acknowledges that these trees have significant environmental values, providing habitat for native fauna, including black cockatoos, western ringtail possums, and their removal has generated widespread community concern. These trees are more than roadside obstacles. They are part of the landscape that defines this region. They are part of our identity. They are part of the reason people choose to live here, visit here and raise their families here. Mature Marri and peppermint trees provide shade, improve biodiversity, store carbon, stabilise soils, support complex ecosystems that have developed over many decades. They connect habitat across our landscape and contribute to the natural beauty that distinguishes the city of Busselton from so many other places. While the report proposes planting 120 replacement trees, we should be honest about what that means. Seedlings are not a replacement for mature trees. They'll take decades, if not centuries, to provide a comparable canopy, habitat or environmental value, and in some cases those values may never be fully restored. As a growing city, we constantly face pressure for development, new infrastructure and expanding services. Growth is inevitable, progress is necessary. But if every decision chips away a little more on our natural environment, eventually we wake up and discover that the very thing that made this place worth living have been lost. Growth should never come at the expense of the character that defines our community. As elected members, we are custodians of this district. Our responsibility extends beyond the next budget cycle or the next funding opportunity. We make decisions that shape what Busselton will look like for future generations. Once these mature trees are removed, there is no bringing them back. Future councillors will never have the opportunity to reverse that decision. Our children, grandchildren will inherit the consequences of what we decide tonight. The report itself recognises that balancing environmental protection with road safety is a complex community issue. For me, that balance has not yet been struck. When faced with a choice between preserving mature native trees that have stood for generations and pursuing a project that permanently removes them, I believe we should err on the side of protecting what cannot be replaced. Roads can be fixed, funding opportunities might come again, but mature native trees and environmental values they support are effectively irreplaceable within our lifetime. The Council often speaks about sustainability, environmental stewardship and protecting the unique character of our district. Tonight, we have an opportunity to demonstrate that those are not simply words in a strategic plan or a strategic document, but the principles that genuinely guide our decisions, and therefore I can't support it. There was a couple of things that got discussed. I'm not holding anyone to this, but there was some discussion last week about, whether the city would be liable. And I understand that we don't know that. But what I can say is that traffic, accidents on country roads are 100% foreseeable. I drive down a single lane gravel road for 4 kilometres before I turn onto Caves Road, one of, a notorious road in our district, on an inside of a blind corner to then drive down Metrocut Road and onto the highway, which the section I drive to work each day has had 3 major car accidents, including a tree randomly falling on top of one of them this year already. So a car accident's foreseeable on country roads, you better believe it. Absolutely, no doubt about it. Probably just worth remembering as well that the VDL is going to involve the clearing of trees in the future. There is no clear path down there, so we're going to have to lose some trees in the future. So I think it's a bad idea to rip these ones out now and lose more in the future. Because it's been a long night, I might try and be funny at the end here, but I listened to Big Yellow Taxi by Joni Mitchell today, and it says that we've, cut down all the trees and put them in a tree museum, only we're going to cut down all the trees and put them in a chipper. So it's, although I guess Joni Mitchell was being pessimistic at the time, turns out that maybe she was optimistic and that they're at least going to get put in a museum. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Mueller. I will rise to speak for Councillor McNish's alternate. I am somebody who does usually like to retain trees as much as possible, and I have debated many, many times about tree retention, particularly in subdivisions. In subdivisions, developers just go through and wipe out all the trees and nobody seems to bat an eyelid. There seems to be no recourse. There's certainly not much accountability. In this case, I'm not terribly excited about these trees being removed. However, I'll let the appeals process take its course, and if it is decided that through the appeal that it doesn't warrant their removal, then I'll be happy about that. I suppose for me the issue is not just liability, which could be reputationally damaging to the city. It would more, I would feel it more personally if I knew that there was something I could do to make that road safer by improving sight lines, and increasing some of the shoulders, and I didn't do it and something happened and someone hit a tree and they died, I would feel, regardless of whether the city was held personally liable or where the buck stopped at the end of the day, I would feel myself that I had done a disservice to my community by not trying to make that road safer. There are a lot of trees on that road. They are very close to the road. There have been accidents on that road, and I know it's debated about where they've occurred and how they've occurred and are they relevant to this argument. But I think any one accident is too many accidents, and I have young daughters that drive. Whilst I feel deeply that we don't want to lose mature trees, when I weigh up road safety versus trees, and it's not the total removal of the trees, it is periodic removal of some of the trees, and it's not ideal. But in this case, and I'm going to support, I think it's sensible. I concur with Councillor Love and Councillor McNish. I like point 4 and point 5. I think it makes sense to me to try and get some more information. And, at the end of the day, we have developers who are running around and denuding huge tracts of developable land. And while everyone sort of sits by and we sort of have the community up in arms about removing a few mature trees, but the city is held accountable. So we will need to replant them and we will be held accountable for how it's done. And if it is done, we will be held accountable because everyone will be watching us. Developers are not held to account. But we will be held to account at how those trees are removed, that they're done safely, that the black cockatoos and the possums are thought about when it's done. We will do it responsibly. So I'm comfortable with that, and I'm comfortable from my own personal point of view that I can sleep comfortably knowing that I have done all that I can to make this road safer for people to travel on. And I think even dropping the speed limit won't necessarily avoid another nasty accident. That may occur in one of those trees that was earmarked for removal. So I'm supporting Councillor McNish's alternate recommendation, councillors, and I would urge you to do the same. Thank you. Speaker against. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you. I'd like to speak against and foreshadow that I do have an alternative and that I would be prepared to add in point 4 to that alternative. And I just want to make it clear that I was at the Regional Roads Group meeting on Monday, and I did say to the manager of Main Roads that I believe the VDL has been taken off the government's radar. He said, Councillor Ryan, it may have been taken off the government's radar. It hasn't been taken off Main Roads' radar. It is up to us to lobby to get it put back on. And I would urge the community to consider some kind of petition to get that going. So let me be clear from the outset, this is not a debate about whether road safety is important. It is. The question before us is whether the removal of 27 mature trees has been demonstrated to be the best and only solution available. The officer report relies heavily on historical crash data and concludes that roadside vegetation should be removed to improve safety. However, many of the crashes relied upon occurred before the speed limit on this section of road was reduced from 110 kilometres to 90. Residents, and I think you were referring to Felicity Bradshaw, Councillor McNish, sent in that long letter on behalf of a number of ratepayers who I know are concerned. And they use that road every day and have also agreed that there is a significant reduction in accidents since the speed limit was put down. I'm also reminded of the attempt a number of years ago to remove chewit trees along Chewit Drive. That was kiboshed too. Before Council approves an irreversible vegetation clearing, I believe we should have greater confidence that current crash data supports the conclusion. What is equally concerning is that alternative treatments had not been comprehensively assessed. The officer comments acknowledge that intersection-specific treatments were not investigated as part of the black spot application. Further speed management, additional engineering treatments and other safe system approaches have not been fully explored and costed. In effect, council is being asked to approve tree removal before alternate options have been evaluated. The avenue of mature vegetation along Vass Yelling up Siding Road is not simply a roadside hazard. It is a significant environmental, landscape and community asset. These trees provide habitat for exceptional animals that we should be looking after, and mature Maori trees. The offset planting will not replace what is being planned to be taken out. It could take generations to have those saplings that we're planning on planting replace what we've got. This is a tourist road. I travel this road probably 10, 20 times a week. I never do over 85. It's a scenic gateway to our region. Residents and visitors alike love what we've got here. Please don't agree to have them removed. Our responsibility is to determine whether the proposal before us represents the best outcome from the community. Road safety improvements can still be pursued. Further speed management can be considered. Barriers can be investigated. Target intersection treatments can be designed. Additional funding opportunities can be explored. What cannot be recovered are the mature trees that have to be removed. And the environmental loss is immediate and irreversible. And I've got to say, I'm not a raving greenie by any account. But councillors, please consider my alternate recommendation is there, and I would hope that you would reject this and support my alternate.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Speaker for? Speaker against? Councillor Adams.
Thank you. I'm certainly no greenie, but I'm pretty passionate about this. If this goes ahead, there is you can't get them back. You could plant 1,000 trees and it's not going to replace these trees if you take them out. I drive that road a fair bit, never had any problems with it, and it's strange that most of the people that live on that road haven't got a problem with it either. My worry is twofold. You take some of those trees out, yes, you make it a bit safer, but I tell you what, right behind that tree that you took out, there's probably another one that's not far behind it. And if you go off that road, if you haven't hit that first tree that we've taken out, you're going to hit the second one. So there might be a couple of accidents less, maybe, and that's debatable. My worry is when we talk about our liability, basically, we're a massive shire. Nearly every road we've got, it could be classed as a liability. We're going to cut all the trees down. That's one road I do drive, is Chewett Drive, every day, basically nearly every day, with my pigeons and work. That's the way we go out of the back of town. And I tell you what, sometimes it's good that the trees are closer to the road because you actually concentrate a bit better. But my biggest worry of all is the fact of modern society. If we don't like it, we ban it, we cut it down, we do anything. We don't actually think of any alternative. It's just take the easy thing, get rid of it, problem solved, and let's move on. But it's not a problem solved at all. It's actually a problem multiplied. And I think one of our things coming up is for the Worgan Road. Now, I think they might have 4 or 5 trees on the middle of their excavation pit. What they've got to go through to keep those trees alive is just phenomenal, what the conditions we've put on, and then yet we'll go and cut 29 mature Maoris and all that down. The trees that they've got, I'm sure, are wetland. I'm not sure, so I'm speaking out of turn here, but it's 4 or 5 trees, and the stuff they've got put on their application to keep those 4 trees alive. And yes, we're going to go and take a chainsaw to 2,900-year-old trees, which can house cockatoos, etc., etc. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Speaker for? Speaker against? Councillor Kennedy.
I'll add a few points. I'm really undecided. I was going to speak for, but now I'm going to speak against. So looking at the data, something that probably hasn't been fully comprehended is the volumes have stabilised. So the last 9 years, there's only been a 260 vehicle increase, whereas prior to that, 7 years, there was plus 1,000 vehicles increased. So they have stabilised, but I understand that Dunsborough is developing, and so more volume will come, but that development has not yet finished. And we also understand that the Dunsborough link is to happen in the future. And if that does happen, this road essentially comes, not redundant, but there is less requirement for that. So tree 16, which is the one that's being kept, I feel is probably the most hazardous tree there. It's right on the road, and we're not removing that one, but we're going to remove less risky ones. So Councillor Adams did just mention if you miss that first tree, you're probably going to hit another. Now there's a concept, and I didn't, there is a concept, there's been a study of, it's a traffic calming concept that it's applied to townscapes, you know, when they're busy pedestrians. The speed limit to town is 40 kilometres, but no one drives 40 kilometres because it's busy. You slow down naturally. This is the same concept with trees. So if we create a safer road, people will feel they can drive faster and they're going to hit the next tree that's in their way. Also, this is the Wadandi track right next to it, and there's been calls for this to be a flora road, a tourist road, and I think it's putting more impetus on that this could become a real unique road. The guidelines are just guidelines. We don't have to adhere to them. So they are my considerations for voting against the removal of these trees. The only little one I had for removing the trees, what was my point? Oh, was that the trees could be replaced. Yeah, and that's about it. Thank you, elected members.
I think everybody has now spoken, so Councillor McNish, your right of reply. Oh, sorry, Councillor Mueller. Sorry, Councillor Dykstra, you popped up.
All night, yeah.
Yeah, you've been very quiet tonight. I apologise. Councillor Dykstra, you are speaking for?
Yeah, for, yep.
Thank you.
I'll be supporting Councillor McNish's alternative motion. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge everyone who took the time to email me about this proposal. I appreciate those emails, and I completely understand why people want to protect these beautiful trees. This has not been an easy decision. One of our roles as councillors is to look at all the evidence and to make the best decision we can for the whole community, not just the popular ones. I also have confidence in the environmental assessment process. DEWA takes the clearing of native vegetation very seriously. They are independent experts, and their decision, including any conditions they impose after the appeal process, should carry significant weight with council. I believe the officers have worked hard to minimise their environmental impact while improving the safety on this road. On balance, I believe this is the right decision, and I'll ask everyone to support this alternative motion.
Thank you, Councillor Dykstra. Now I believe everybody has spoken. Councillor McNish, your right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Some very good discussion points. Good to hear. Been a long night, but well done, everyone. I'll go through them. Councillor Ryan, your need to further examine the crash data, the applicability of it and how it applies. Good point. If there's if there's some sort of technical way around challenging that, I suggest you take that up with the engineering people and see how validly that can be pursued. But I'm concerned that you didn't want to include point 5 in what you're proposing, because it's just a phone call. And our insurers, we pay them a lot of money, they will take the phone call, and I would like to know if they would cover a claim if such were made, and if they do, happy days. No clearing. So please, let's seek that information. It's just a phone call. Councillor Mueller, loved your speech, and I can't argue with anything against it, particularly because you've introduced the concept of values-based discussion, and that's exactly where this is going. And we need to expand this values-based kind of discussion in this chamber a lot more, because it's the governance calculated balance between the probability and consequence of an accident, maybe a non-negligent accident, because driver negligence might come into it as well, and the value of irreplaceable vegetation. Good, healthy, values-based discussion that you'll find really is the underpinning of all discussion and points of view, is the values. We need to do that a lot more. So a sound speech, and nice try with the liability to the appeals convener, but I don't think you can sue these people. It comes back on us. Councillor Cox, you're so right about the moonscaping. That's the moonscaping scenario of structure planning development is a disgrace. But anyway, when Minister Carey allows 370 square metre blocks, I'm sorry, but there just ain't no room for a tree because it simply comes down and falls on someone's house and wipes someone out. So that's a real shame. But I know our staff have been trying to work at identifying feature trees at that structure planning level. And I encourage them to keep doing that. Councillor Adams, I don't think there's a person here that wants those trees down. In any way we can find that is legitimate and risk balanced to prevent them coming down, I would wholeheartedly support. And Councillor Kennedy, your adherence to guidelines, if indeed they are just guidelines and that has lesser weight at law, such that we won't incur the liability, then great. But that's what I need to, I would like the council through the CEO to explore by calling on the insurer, who would then probably have some case examples, some legal case examples, and do that sooner rather than later, because there might be a solution somewhere in there. But the council's great debate, and I want the trees to stay, but in accordance with these conditions. So please support my alternative.
Thank you, Councillor Nish. I will now put the motion. All those in favour of the alternate? Councillor McNish, Councillor Love, Councillor Cox, Councillor Dykstra and Councillor Kennedy. Those against? Councillor Ryan, Councillor Adams and Councillor Mueller. The motion is endorsed. Thank you. It was 353.
Thank you. Sorry, I missed some.
No, that's okay. We will now move on to an item that is confidential. Therefore, I will ask the CEO to do his conflict, his interest, before he's running out the door. And then I will move a motion to close the meeting. Haven't you done it enough? You remember it off the top of your head?
I'll give you the digital copy. It's very basic. I declare a financial interest in this item, 19.1, as I am the current CEO temporary, and this proposal recommends an extension of that contract.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. I will now move a motion to close the meeting. Can I have a mover, please? Move Councillor Love, seconded Councillor Mueller. Is there any opposition? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried 8-0. 7-0. Oh, sorry, Councillor McNish has left the room, so that was carried 7-0. Is Councillor McNish Thank you. For the record, item 19.1, that the council extends the expiry date of the current temporary chief executive officer was carried 8-0. Okay, councillors, that looks like we are done for the ordinary council meeting of the 29th of July. I will declare the meeting closed at 7:55 p.m. Thank you all very much for your attendance.